Hey punks! Welcome back to the University of Radlands. We have another Cult of Chrome preview camp to go over today, number 18. So we are about 2/3 of the way through the 27 camps that Daniel was going to preview for the expansion. And of course, I will link Daniel's Board Game Geek post in the description below, so that way you can also read that and get Daniel's take on the camp. So today's camp was a pretty interesting one. Of course, I think they all are. It's called Fortress. It gives you 0 starting cards at the beginning of the game. It has a trait. This camp starts forward 1 space. A person can go behind. And then for 3 water, you can gain up to 3 punks if you want. So this camp is very similar to one kind of from the original game, Juggernaut. Now, Juggernaut started at the camp spot, and you could spend 1 water to move it forward, and it can move forward and then come all the way back. So kind of similar idea to that, but instead, at the beginning of the game, this will start in 1 space forward, so kind of in the middle row in your play area, and you can play a person in front of Juggernaut or a person behind. And then for 3 water, you can then also gain 3 punks. So similar to other, punk gaining abilities or traits or events, you don't have to gain all 3 of them. If you only wanted 2, you could just spend 3 water for 2 punks. But probably since you're spending that much water, it would make sense to try to use or have all of them on the board since you're paying for that ability anyway. Also keep in mind, if Fortress is going to take a hit, and then if Fortress is ever destroyed, what allowed Fortress or even Juggernaut to move out of the camp spot was their abilities or their traits. So once Fortress is destroyed, it goes back into the camp row destroyed, and then if there was a person there, it would then move up and then would just have the regular protection rules at that point. So just wanted to point that out. When it's destroyed, move it back to the camp row. Any person that was behind it would then move up. So lots of synergies, especially when you're having the punk aspect to it. I think punks give you a lot that you're able to use. So one of those camp synergies I kind of have dubbed the destroy package. When you can destroy a person to get some sort of benefit, such as catapult, blood bank, mulcher, and the octagon. And labor camp, punks aren't really doing much, so it's a person that you're willing to sacrifice or destroy to get one of these better abilities. If you have a 4th water somehow, whether the water silo or muse or you junk for a water, I think this ability for the 3 punks works really well with Transplant Lab or Nest of Spies. For 3 water, you've put up to 3 people on the board, which satisfies the 2 or more people into play this turn. You then get a cheap restore or a cheap damage. And probably the best synergy from the base game is Command Post. And this is one of the reworked base game camps, going from 2 starting to 1 starting. You might be able to maybe see why now. You spend the 3 water to gain 3 punks. Well, Command Post costs 1 less for each punk you have on the board or in play. So by spending 3 water here, you have now reduced this 3 costed ability down to 0. And as long as you can keep those punks around, Command Post is 0 water to deal a damage. That's pretty powerful. I think Fortress also pairs really well with Motorcycle Club, a camp we've talked about. For Motorcycle Club to activate, you have to have a punk already on the board. Well, Fortress is a way to put punks on the board. So then you could kind of activate Motorcycle Club once they're there. And then, of course, this works really well with Battering Ram. And to refresh your memory on that, Battering Ram was a camp that allowed you to destroy any opponent's camp if you had 6 or more people on the board. Well, for 3 water, you can put 3 punks, or punks are people, so 3 people onto the board. And if you already had 2 or 3 other people, you're really close to satisfying getting 6 on the board and destroying somebody's camp. Kind of an expensive combo. This ability costs 3, that ability costs 3, but definitely a way to kickstart getting people onto your side of the board. We have some combos in the punk deck that work really well when you have something that deals with punks. You can use Rescue Team to bring those punks back into your hand, see what they are, and then play them out as people or events. Truce, another great card or event that loves having punks. Pick all those punks up, and again, they are in your hand. So that kind of maybe pairs well with Death Ray. Now, this is a pretty expensive combo as well. 3 water for 3 punks, and then probably on the next turn you can spend the 2 water to pick them all up. So hopefully they have survived. Rabble Rouser loves having punks. Instead of having to spend water for him to gain punks, if you already have punks on the board, he gets a really cheap damage. And Argo Yeski, another punk lover, as punks can gain his ability for 1 water for 1 damage, and you can have a big giant punk army that's able to deal really cheap damage to your opponent. And the next aspect of this card that probably combos really well with stuff is the trait. As we talked about, it is here compared to your other camps. So you have a spot that essentially could maybe be doubly protected. So what kind of people would you maybe want to have out that you might want to have 2 people in front of? Some of my favorites. A sniper being doubly protected is really good. Now you can have your sniper way up top and shooting and taking out anything on the opponent's side with sniper's ability. A Magnus Carve being protected can be really beneficial, as you can mow down your opponent's columns and leave your Magnus protected really well. And the end-all be-all, probably, if you can get a Mulgar staying behind your fortress and have him very well protected. 1 water, destroy any camp, so you can start sniping and taking out your opponent's camp. So really good synergy or combo there. Maybe even game-winning. So this is a fun one. Would recommend reading Daniel's post as he talked about or discussed. This was probably the last camp that was designed for the expansion, and this would have been the last time that him and I would have play tested the expansion Cult of Chrome. It originally had a different ability where it would take damage when other camps were getting damaged first, and then you couldn't restore it, and so then it would kind of get destroyed really quickly, and it was kind of cumbersome interacting with like raiders or bombardment or other stuff. And so, as Daniel mentioned, it was kind of changed last minute. So he had thought of some camp ideas. He asked me to think of some camp ideas that I sent to him. Maybe it would have inspired him, as these weren't the ideas that I thought of for Fortress. But I really like this. This ability was one that we had kind of played with in the original play testing, having a camp that was moved forward. So we kind of brought it back. Him and I play tested it pretty extensively there, just to make sure it didn't seem too overpowered or too crazy. It worked really well. We both seemed to like it. And here it is. It's Fortress. I like the, looks like maybe a refrigerator there in the front. Great art, as all the art has been so far in this expansion. Really loving that. But tell me, what do you think of Fortress? Do you think it's a camp that you might take advantage of having it be one spot forward? Or do you think it leaves this camp too exposed and might be easier for your opponent to win the game? Let me know. What combo synergies do you see? Let's talk about it. And as always, stay thirsty, punks.